exclusive. Hey, everybody. It's Talk It Out Tuesday. Welcome to another Talk It Out Tuesday. And you know what Talk It Out Tuesday is all about? It is where Tori and I, we come together for some real talk. You know, we cover some of everything under the sun. The thing I like about it most is that you get to join us in a candid, let me get my mouth together here, in a candid and honest conversation about topics that are on your mind, because you guys send me this stuff. You send the video clips, the TikToks, the reels, stuff that you want to hear us talk about. And we're not afraid to dive deep. So, you know, we get into these conversations and sometimes it's stuff that we just really need to talk about. We really need to talk it out. And it's that simple. That's what Talk It Out Tuesday is all about. We got one here for you today that could be a little triggering. It could be. You heard the topic of the conversation. We are talking about daddy issues, daddy gone. We're talking about why men abandon kids. You saw it. You saw the topic. It's why men abandon kids. And this is going to be a conversation where I invite you guys to be a part of the community that discuss this difficult topic, because it happens. It happens. And as a podcaster and as a content creator, I'm just dedicated to exploring important society issues. I believe that we have to have some understanding and some empathy. And in that way, we can emerge with a good conversation. We can come together and share our thoughts, share our experiences, and talk it out. But before we get so deep into the conversation, before Tori come in here and we start to talk it out, you know what we got to do? We got to do a little breath work. And I know we need this breath work here today. We need this breath work for this conversation. So join us. What I want you to do is inhale to the count of 4. And we're going to hold it for a few seconds. And then we're going to exhale. And we'll hold that for a few seconds. And we'll repeat that a few times. Now, you can close your eyes if you're in a place that you can do that. I don't want you to do that if you're driving. Don't do that if you're driving. Don't do that if you're actually sitting at the desk. If you got your head pods on and you're taking a listen, we'll vibrate with us and listen. But if you can close your eyes, close your eyes. You want to take it a step further, put your hands over your heart and feel that you are alive. That's you. Let's get into it. Inhale to the count of 4. Hold that a few seconds. Exhale. Hold that a few seconds. Inhale again. Hold that a few seconds. Exhale. One more time. Let's inhale. Hold it a few seconds. And exhale. Yeah. Didn't that feel great? Yeah. Hope you got that breath work in because I really feel we're going to need it today. You see what our topic is today? Our topic is Daddy Gone, Why Men Abandon Kids. It's the Noontime, My Time podcast. We're here weekdays, 12 p.m., here to provide some conversation because conversations matter. We need to not be afraid to have those larger conversations. And it's Talk It Out Tuesday. It's Talk It Out Tuesday, guys. So you know that means Tori is in the building. Tori is in the house. How you feeling, Tori? Keep the faith with Tori.
I am feeling amazing. And before we get into the conversation, let me just tell you, I really enjoyed my time this weekend with the Brown South girls. Oh my God. I had a ball with you guys this weekend. It was simply amazing. So I got to get that out there. I'm still on a adrenaline rush from this weekend. We had an amazing time this weekend. If you guys missed this past weekend, you missed a great show. Tanya, baby daddy, was in the building. He was in Florence, South Carolina. And in case you don't know who I'm talking about, we're talking about Joe.
All right. All the things yo man won't do.
It was good. We had an amazing time. Shout out to the team in Florence, Big P, Tyreek, I call him Tyreek, Booty Red, and Shy C that held it down from Florence. And big shouts out to Sean Nice, my boy, Sean Nice, Fantasia's DJ. That's my boy. So we had a ball. Didn't we have a ball?
Woo. We did. And let me tell you something. DJ Sean Nice?
Yes, Sean Nice.
Did he have us rocking out or what?
He did.
He had it. You know what? I'm still not recovered. I'm serious. I'm still a little tired. I'm wore out from fun.
Yeah, it was good.
It was good. Yeah. It really was. I'm glad I'm glad you kind of made me smile already because I got to tell you something from the, people send us the TikToks and reels and things they want to hear us talk about. And sometimes it's a little triggering. I get a lot of things that don't stop doing it, guys. But sometimes I get things that definitely do not come across my timeline, things that I did not see. So I'm amazed at some of the things that people are saying. But definitely I feel like it's a conversation we could have. And today, once again, as usual, we got a video in the inbox, and that's what sparked the conversation. So you want to let's play the video for the people to see. Let the people see what we get in the box.
Yes, let's play the video.
We need to let people know in these internet streets.
Are men out there who are having a difficult time?
Let me rewind it a little bit because we were kind of watching it and talking about it a little bit here. But here it is for you guys.
Relationship that black men have with their kids. The fucked up part about it is black men love their kids through the mama's eyes. If you love the mama, you're going to love the kid. If you hate the mama, you might not really want to have a relationship with the kid because you hate the mama.
Are men out there who are having a difficult time bonding with children, with women that they didn't know in the first place and that they didn't love and respect and shouldn't have been having sex to begin with? Do not have babies with these men unless you are prepared yourself. Because even when a man falls out of love with you, if y'all were married or inside of a relationship, some of them are having a difficult time with still loving their children. And that's on facts. It may not sound politically correct, may not make you feel all good and warm and fuzzy on the inside, but it doesn't make it any less true.
First of all, women all over the world, listen to me. Stop having babies with black men. I'm not saying this because I hate myself. I'm not saying this because I hate black men. I'm saying this because they have the proclivity to have negative relationships with their children. Even when they get married to a woman, a lot of them divorce women and then never see their children again. Not because his ex-wife is a bitter bitty, but because they abandon children. Again, they abandon children. This is not a drill.
Woo. And let me just say, don't you get out in these internet streets and said Miss Tanya said this. No, I did not. The video came to us, but it's definitely a serious topic for conversation. What do you think about that video?
The video is, ooh. Listen, mic drop. I can just simply say, me personally, I can relate. I can relate, but I will say that not all men are that way, but I can relate. It's like that was my story.
Mm.
And I feel like a lot of times when if that is the case, then if the father has an issue with the mother, they should not take it out on the child. And you have no idea how sometimes I feel bad because, sometimes we have to be careful and mindful of who we choose to have children with. And sometimes I feel like, even though I had a gentleman, a friend of mine, I was like, Tori, you didn't fail. I said that I feel like I failed my son. And he's like, no, don't say that. But I have felt that way sometimes because I made some bad choices, and because of that choice, and I don't have a relationship with the father, and my son is actually suffering because of that. So
Yeah.
I can relate to it.
It's happening. We got people already chiming in and on the conversation.
Les says, okay, I'm triggered. Well, Les, it's not you. You are one of the good ones. But I feel what you're saying. You're one of the good ones. Kim Sinclair says, good morning. And
got one. I got some for that. I got something.
Good morning. And Ty, you're supposed to be on cue.
You know what?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I definitely. Goodness. And I have to agree with Les here. He said he was triggered because when I got the video and I watched it, I felt the same way. I definitely was triggered by it, Mm-hmm. And he also says the video is BS. That's my thought.
Yeah.
That's his thought, Yeah. But we gotta be honest because we're having a full conversation here. We've got to know that there are fathers out here who abandon their children. So let's not deny that.
Yeah.
We know it to be true. Some of you who are listening are children who have been abandoned. So, you may not be a father who is one who abandoned your child. And definitely, I can't say that there's one particular culture of men who do this. Now, in the particular video, the young lady said that, Black men abandon their children. And we know that it's not all. Absolutely not. It is not all. And it will never be all. Right. But there are some out here. So we're triggered. Yeah. But are we denying the fact that there are a lot of truths here? And I think the larger conversation would be, how can we share and get a message to these men who are abandoning their children? How can we have this conversation of helping children who are abandoned to understand and deal with this emotion, because it's important for us to know that I'm going to say it again, we got to realize that there are individual circumstances and individual motivations, right, to why this happened. Not all men who abandon their children share the same reason for that matter.
Right.
We're here to talk about some of the common factors that contribute to men abandoning their children. So let's really talk about that,
Right. I'm looking at I was just looking at that particular comment. Les says good dads are the norm, not the exception. That's where I disagree. Mm-hmm. That's good, Les. And says we can go from there. And then the last question. Yeah. And then the last one, Les says, who is raising the men who are abandoning the children? What are they teaching them? Well, I can answer that question from personal experience. I am a mother who is raising a son who is actually a few months shy from becoming 18 years of age. And basically, when you ask, what am I teaching him? I'm teaching my son to love regardless. I have taught my son to forgive. And I actually even went as far as telling my son, like, if your father knocked on the door, welcome him with open arms. And I had a friend of mine to check me. She was like, listen, Tori, I get what you're saying. I understand you're a spiritual person. I get you into forgiving, but you have to allow your son to feel what he needs to feel. So I had to respect that, because even though I'm being a good parent, I'm teaching my son love. I'm teaching him about forgiveness. At the same time, I have to respect his feelings.
You do. And I want to say something too, because I'm not about to have this defensive thing of men against women. I'm absolutely not going to even entertain that, because we are going to agree, and we do know that there are men who abandon their children. And yes, we know that good fathers are the rule. That is not the larger conversation we're having here. The conversation is what is happening. Why is this happening? What contributes to men abandoning their children? Okay, yes, let's post this up. Good fathers are the norm. Okay, let's give that love out. But yes, there are fathers who abandon. So now what we're talking about, what this discussion is really about, no matter how you feel about it, no matter how you're triggered, how and what are some of the common factors that contribute to this? Because if we talk about this, if we talk about these particular things, maybe we can start working on this problem. Now, let's ask the question that you answered, and it almost to me sounded like you were defending yourself. And I wanted to say, Tori, don't defend yourself, because the question is here. He said, "Who is raising the men who are abandoning children? What are they teaching them?"
Well, you know what? And I just reread the question.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I got something to say here.
Okay.
He says, "Who is raising the men who are abandoning children?" Now, I can take that a couple different ways, because it is a cycle. It may be a cycle of abandonment. Okay. So that is an issue. So we can't get into this thing where you want to say, well, it's women who are, of course, it's going to be the mother who's raising the kid. If the father is not there, exactly what is that question supposed to be asking? How is that moving us forward in the conversation? That's just pitting us against each other and having a conversation of going back and forth, and it is not contributing to the conversation. It is not asking the question and not dealing with some of the issues of what are the common factors that contribute to this situation. That's what we're talking about, guys. We know that there's a lot of single mothers out here raising children, and I don't know necessarily that they want to do that. They don't. I don't think that's anybody's idea. You know what? I think, and let me take that back, because there are some, but just like there is a majority of good dads, there's a majority of mothers who their goal is not to be a single mother. That's not on like our top 5 list. That wasn't something that we dreamed of. Oh, I can't wait to grow up and be a single mother. So let's get that straight. All right. Okay, Tori, let's go ahead and continue the conversation. Now,
No, can I say something right quick?
Go right ahead.
I was just going to say that question with Leslie says, who's raising? I misinterpreted the question. He says, who is raising the men who are abandoning the children? Meaning the men that are abandoning their children, who are raising them, and what are they teaching them? Meaning, what are you teaching the men that are abandoning their children? Now, I read the question totally wrong. So that's why I said what I said. So my bad, Les. My bad, Les.
No, I can't say that you read that wrong, because it is going to be a matter of interpretation. Okay. That is a matter of interpretation. I could interpret that the same way that you did. But the whole point of the matter is you interpreted one way and I interpreted another way. And that's why it's Talk It Out Tuesday with Tori and Miss Tanya, because we don't agree to the same things. And as much as I love Les, and Les knows that I love him, I think that was a ridiculous question. With love. All right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of things that can contribute to men abandoning children. They could have been an abandoned child. They may have grown up in a home where they didn't have a father, so they didn't learn to be a father. Now you get young men who are going to come out on opposite sides of that. You're going to get the young man who becomes that same type of father, and then you're going to get a young man who wants to be the opposite of that, and he's going to be a great father. But I think that there's just a lack of emotional readiness. Some men are just not prepared. And I don't know what their age is or what their financial background may be, but it can be overwhelming. Let's talk about how they can be overwhelmed by the emotional responsibility of fatherhood. They might struggle to connect with the child. They might find it challenging to navigate different changes and sacrifices required to be a parent. They may not be prepared. That's something that we should talk about. You did?
Yes. And Les says, I mean, the men who have already abandoned their kids, your son will be fine, Tori. Thank you for that, Les. Thank you. And he also says the question was not an attack on women. It's a question of what is the root of the problem. Talk it out. Yeah, I feel you, Les.
I got you. That's what we're here to do. So, I feel like, that lack of emotional readiness and preparation, they just weren't ready. And another big one, an absence of positive role models, an absence of a father figure. Growing up without a father figure is a difficult thing. Witnessing dysfunctional parenting, they could be in a home with dysfunctional parents. That impacts a man's perception on fatherhood. And without a healthy role model, of course, they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle to understand what their true responsibilities are as a parent, as a father, and they fail to prioritize their children's needs because nobody ever prioritized theirs. So where do we get this stuff from? You got to learn. You got to have those role models in your life, and I feel like if a man grows to a particular age, obviously, and he's had kids and, he's not prepared, he lacked the proper father figure. I want to know, is there something that men themselves among each other in their peer groups? I'd like to know how they hold each other responsible for that. Because just like we know who these single mothers are, a lot of us know who these children's fathers are. So what is the conversation like with that? Or what is your thought about that, Tori?
Repeat the question, because you said a lot.
I said a lot, but I mean, what is your thought about men holding each other accountable because they know who some of these fathers are? They know some of their peer group may not be that responsible father.
The way the world is set up now, people are like, if it's not my issue personally, then they tend to not say anything. I'm that person that's going to tell you about yourself, but everybody don't operate like that. Some people can see a person do wrong, see that it's going to hurt somebody else and still not say anything. They'll stand right there and not say a word. So I think we live in a world now to where people are just like, if it don't affect me personally, it ain't in my house, then I'm not going to worry about it. It's not my issue. But I'm from the old school. I'm different. If I see it, I'm going to call you out on it. I'm going to pull you to the side and call you out on it. Now, and I will say something else that you said in regards to this. Like I said, my son is being raised by me, but I have exposed him to positive role models. And my son said to me one day, he said that I'm actually, when I get older, he said, I want to get married. I'm not going to cheat on my wife, and I'm going to be a great dad to my father. So some men and some people growing up without their father, they be the opposite of what their father was. So my son wants to always be there. He says this, and this was like when he was probably 13 or 14 years old, and he's soon to be 18. He always said, I want to make sure I'm there for my wife and my kids. And Les says, men with two parents abandon kids. So no, not my intent. Thank you, Les. And Les also says, call them out, call the kids, if nothing else, develop a relationship with them. And to be honest with you, Les, with that last statement, that was one of my issues. If you have an issue with me, you still can call your son. I'm not one of those mothers that I don't even talk negative about his father to him. And I'm not one of those mothers that's gonna keep the child away from the father. That's not what I do. Kim says the old saying, "Mama's baby, daddy's maybe," is a real thing. It surely is. It really and
It
truly
really
is.
is. And there's a lot of that. I mean,
Mm.
so and that becomes a relationship issue. That's a relationship breakdown. And that
Yeah.
happens a lot as well. But just to kind of just back up just a little bit on Les's comment of saying call them out, you
Yeah.
know, I agree. I agree with that because we know we see these single mothers out here and we know the kid, we might know the father, and they're not having that relationship. So I agree. We should be able to call out our people like, hey, man, that's not looking good. Now, I don't know what that looks like and what that sounds like. I don't. That could be, a whole issue that could go a whole lot of ways. So it would be interesting to know how that plays out. Now, as it relates to Kimberly's comment, she says the old saying, mama's baby, daddy's maybe. Truly, that's a real thing. We know it happens all the time. And we talk about these different relationship dynamics, relationships break down. So when relationships between the parents like deteriorate or when they end, that's going to lead to a strained dynamic, and that's going to lead to a lot of conflicts. And men may choose to distance themselves. They distance themselves from the mother, obviously, but they also distance themselves from the children as a result of bitterness, resentment, their inability to cope with whatever emotional fallout that relationship has gone through. And so for me, where the one point of the video that I felt like was true was when the man said, well, based upon a lot of the times, the relationship that man has with the mother, that's how he deals with the kid. And that was triggering for me because I was like, wow, okay. That kind of made me kind of step back and say, really? Is that what's going on? And this is a man who was saying it, So I don't know how you feel about that. How does that make you feel as a single mother hearing that very first statement in the opening video?
I was triggered. Very triggered. I felt the same way you did. I was very triggered because that's like my story. That's my life story. Like, you got an issue with me. You have a problem with my child. My child didn't ask to come here. He has nothing to do with how you feel about me. So do not take out your frustrations on the child. And it's, oh Lord, let me not get too. I'm just let me just keep it simple. I was triggered. I was very triggered. And that's something that I have to deal with on a daily basis. When I think about it, I try not to think about it too much, but I do find myself sometimes getting triggered and feeling angry. And, I just feel like sometimes I fail my son. So I just do the best I can. But I do feel I was definitely triggered.
That family breakdown is definitely a huge thing. That family and relationship breakdown, because they may a lot of the times, they were never a family. So we got to say that relationship breakdown is a big thing. But we got to talk about that. We got to know that really does play a part in it. Another thing to think about: what about financial pressures? What about some of those financial strains that could be a factor? It could contribute to why men abandon their kids. They might be overwhelmed by the financial responsibilities, and they just kind of get upset with the whole child support payment and what it's like and what it demands to provide for a family, and they withdraw. And that could be a very real thing. I think that plays a role as well.
It does. It does. But most manly men know how to hustle and do whatever is necessary to make sure their children have. So I don't even see that as a valid excuse. That's just my opinion, though. Because most of them will hustle and make sure their children have what they need.
Right. And well, financial, we're just talking about what could possibly because we don't have all of the answers. The idea
Yeah.
of this interactive conversation is so that we could at least try to figure out what some of the factors could be. We're not saying that it absolutely is, but some of these things could absolutely contribute if we're going to be honest, if we really want to have the larger conversation. And financial pressures could be one of the things. And particularly for young fathers, I'm sure that it could be a pressure. Age doesn't have, a hold on that, but it takes a lot to raise a child. And beyond the finance, I like to say that, while that could be a big pressure, we know that it takes more than money to raise a child. They need that love. If you have to ask me, one of the number one things that I think that a father or a mother could provide is that love and that guidance to a child that really doesn't have to equate with any monetary value.
I'm so glad you said that, because I think back to a few years ago when my son's father purchased him, I think, of some clothes, and he got a bed that he needed. And I remember his father making the statement, well, I bought this, talking about what he did. And later on, my son and I had a conversation, and he was like, it didn't matter what he bought. I just want his time. And it literally, like, now making me emotional. He said, I don't care about what he brought. I just want his time. I just want him to show up.
Mm-hmm. And that is why we need to be having these conversations. At least if we know what is contributing to this. If we know, I see Les has a comment here. He said, we, fathers and mothers, to clarify, have to stop raising their daughters and just loving sons. It's a problem. That would be a problem.
Definitely a problem. I've seen that firsthand when the daughters are neglected and the sons are praised. I've seen that as well. And that is definitely a problem, Liz. I totally agree. I'm like, you do realize you have daughters.
Well, and how I'm going to interpret that here is that, there's so much that parents do in respect to raising their daughters. And I think what he's saying, we got to stop raising our daughters, which means we're raising our daughters and just loving our sons, whereas we're preparing our daughters more in life, and we're just simply loving our sons, not preparing them necessarily. And I could see that as a true problem if that is going on. And honestly, that is a different conversation, but a conversation that could be had. I also see Kimberly here. If you want to, wait, let's see what we did that one. Okay.
The one after, put the one before that, right before that one. The comment right before that one.
All right. Well, the reason why I put this one up is because she is referring to when you made the comment about your son already, not even a parent, choosing to be present. And what Kimberly says here is, I say to Tori's point, his father was absent, but he chooses to be present, and that's what I was talking about when you will have a child, a young man who will either, they're going to choose one of those sides. Either he's going to be just like his father, absent father, I should say, and choose to abandon because he didn't learn, and that's what he chose to repeat that cycle, or he could very well do the opposite because he grew up and emotionally knew what that felt like to be abandoned, and he chose not to be that type of father. So I like that comment.
The comment before that, she said, I saw Usher in Vegas. Great show. He's a great example. He excelled. He's a superstar and a single father. It seems he chose to break the cycle. So that's why she did that other comment that you put up before. I say that to Tori's point. His father was absent, but he chooses to be present.
Right. Yeah. And it still goes both ways because we're talking about you sharing that your son said that. We got Malik in the building. He says, "Bless up, royalty. How you doing, man?"
What's up, Malik? Mm-hmm. And then Les also said the daughters aren't neglected. They are taught values and nurturing. Okay. Now see, Tanya got it right this time with interpretation, and I interpret it differently because I've seen where the sons are basically praised and the daughters are neglected. Like I've seen that. So I apologize, Les, I misinterpreted that, but I've actually seen where father has daughters, and the daughter, he does not acknowledge the daughters, but the son is praised. So I
Well,
misinterpreted what you're saying.
we gonna go back to let's not say misinterpret.
Okay.
Let's not say
Yeah.
misinterpret. Let's just say that was your interpretation, because the conversation and the point that you made was still valid, and it was something that needed to be heard as well. Now, let's think about another common factor that really could contribute to this. And let's be honest, because we know fathers who have substance abuse and addiction problems. They have issues, and that includes alcohol or drug addiction. And so that's impairing their judgment. That's hindering a man's ability to fulfill his parental roles. Addiction addiction will consume a person's life. And so that's going to make it difficult for them to prioritize anything. They're not really prioritizing themselves. So how are they going to prioritize their children's needs or maintain some type of consistent involvement? You know what I'm saying? You know, some of those people out there, they're on substance and they are abusing them. And I think sometimes we might need to share that with young people.
That's true, because you just made me think about a post I saw some weeks back, to where the statement was, sometimes it's better to be raised in a home with one parent where there's peace, as opposed to two parents where there's one of the parents, there's a lot of dysfunction. So sometimes there is a blessing in the absence, because of one of the, like, the stuff like the addictions and other abuse that may occur with the, two parents in the household. And let's say it's not just drugs, mental health, bipolar, schizophrenia, etc. That is absolutely true. Yeah.
Exactly. See, I like where we're going here, where we're putting some things on the table, some common factors or some things that could really contribute to this, rather than blame. Let us think about what some of these issues could be, because that mental health, component, bipolar, any type of mental health illness, it could play an issue as well. And a lot of people are going undiagnosed, which is why many people end up in some type of substance abuse, and they're self-medicating. And all of this could be that can be from unresolved personal issues. You don't know what a person is going through. Men have unresolved personal issues. They've got past traumas, like Les said, mental health challenges, unresolved conflicts. And they find it difficult to be able to engage with their children. So these unresolved issues, that's going to create an emotional barrier. That's going to prevent a man from being able to form any type of healthy connection. How can he fulfill parental responsibilities when he's got so many issues that he's dealing with that haven't really been resolved? You got to think about that.
Right. That's very valid. Yeah. That is so true.
And then let's think about this. Here's another factor. This could play in it as well. Lack of awareness, lack of education. Some men may not understand the importance of their role as a father. They truly might lack the awareness of what a long-term impact their absence is really having on their children. And that can come from a lack of education, a lack of parental education, limited exposure. They don't have a positive parenting blueprint. They don't have those examples. They don't have anything to draw from. So that's going to contribute to their decision. And so they abandon these kids, and they're just totally not thinking about it. We know that the kid is feeling that, but he's not thinking about it. And if he's got these unresolved issues, if he's dealing with addiction or any type of substance abuse, who are we blaming, and how can we get help? How can this conversation help us?
Wow. That's good. Les says men often have an instinct to survive, not cope.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And Malik says, I remember not being able to get help from any men because they too were lost. Wow.
Woo.
That's good.
Deep.
Yeah, it is.
That's That's a deep one. And that's what we're talking about. I
Yeah.
mean, we're asking, because we asked a little bit earlier how men could help hold their peer group responsible,
Right.
you know.
Let's
But
say,
Malik,
ooh, Malik. Yeah, that was deep.
yeah, we'll see. But let's put it up here again. You know, read that one again.
Malik says, I remember not being able to get help from any men because they too were lost.
Mm,
Mm.
mm.
Les says, how Pookie gonna help somebody? Someone be a daddy. Preach.
Exactly. And that is what that's what it is. So that's the conversation I wanted to have. We keep having it, we keep blaming, but what are some of the things that contribute? Have we thought about that?
Yeah.
And what about fear? What about fear? Like, what about fear of failure if they feel inadequate, if they're insecure, because people go through that. So there could be some insecurity issues and fear of failure that sometimes leads to men distancing themselves from children. They mean that they might believe that they don't meet the expectations of fatherhood. They fear repeating the same negative patterns from their own upbringing. You know what I'm saying? Now, how they make the decision to do that, but it happens. So they're fearing repeating the same patterns of their own upbringings, and that's causing them to withdraw.
Right.
These
I
are
like
things.
I like that comment that Malik said earlier. Is the timestamp of 12:37 p.m. You see that comment with the timestamp 12:37? When we choose compassion over judgments, we find understanding.
Absolutely.
That's real good.
Absolutely. And that's what I feel like, Tori, one of the greater things, about Talk It Out Tuesday, because again, we sometimes talk about things that we could dive a little bit deeper into that could be, quote unquote, air quotes here, be a little heavy. Sometimes we have conversations that are fun and a little lightweight, but I do think it's important for us to have these discussions. And for the same reason that Malik said, it allows us to look at things with some compassion, not necessarily just judging everything. Let's find a way to understand, like, why is this happening? What contributes to this happening? That's what I want to do,
Yeah. And that's why I've been teaching my son to be understanding. But like I said, I have to allow him to feel where he is, because he's not on the level where I am when it comes to forgiveness. He's not there yet. So I have to give him time, and I can't expect him to be on my level of forgiveness. But I will say that, like I said earlier, I don't ever say anything negative to him about his dad, but he's formulated his own opinion. So
yeah. I mean, let me tell you something. Like when I was going through, the DM and looking at the things that people were asking me to look at, and this one came across me, it was really triggering. And I was, to be honest, I was fearful about really bringing this up because, I mean, that was a tough video to watch. It really was. But I felt like it was essential to approach it. And I was trying to figure out how I could approach it with some empathy, with a little bit of understanding, because it's important to recognize that every situation is going to be different. I was trying to figure out how we're going to be able to curate this conversation and it not be a battle, So I want to thank everybody who's come in here and who are understanding what we're trying to do. We're trying to really think about a larger conversation. We're trying to say, well, yeah, this happens, but what are some things that make this happen, make men have this type of reaction? And I just feel like addressing a lot of these underlying factors, that's really what's going to help us find a way and find some solutions, because we need to be supporting these people. And we need to support these fathers the best way that we can, so that they can become more engaging, so that they can be more responsible, so that they can understand what this effect is like. And we're doing this because the idea is that we want to raise hold and better children. We don't want them to be broken, you know? I see we
Right.
got some more comments here if you want to read some of them.
Les says we have to teach boys to love, to nurture. We teach boys to be tough. Don't cry. It said, oh, I'm so glad you said that, Les, because I've been doing that. Oh my God, teaching my son about love and forgiveness. And I remember him saying that he didn't want to cry. I said, it's okay to cry. He has that mindset. Well, if I cry, I'm appear weak. I said, no, sir. If you will cry, you're just expressing your emotion. I said, you are entitled to feel things as well. And that doesn't mean that you can't cry. I've said this before, but he has this thing where I don't, feeling like because he's a male that I can't cry. I'm like, yes, you can.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel like you can't cry because you absolutely can cry. It's
Yeah.
okay to cry. Sometimes you're gonna need to cry. And crying is basically cleansing your soul. So sometimes crying is necessary. Whether you're a man, if you know what I'm saying, a lot of men's like, I can't cry. Man, please cry. Cry.
You're right. Just being able to be honest with your own emotion. I feel
Right.
like stifling that or learning and developing that habit ultimately is not good. And I just agree with that. It's okay because you're gonna feel emotional, or at least you're supposed to. You're supposed to. That's how we're designed as the human species. So Les is right. He's right
Yeah.
about that, and we know that, so we do need to do that. And I
Absolutely.
wanna say too, it's not necessarily women or mothers who have to do that. I feel like men around have to do that too, and it doesn't have to be the father because we're talking about young people who have been abandoned, so just some of those mentors out there, some of those uncles out there, stepfathers, big brothers, just allowing yourself to be vulnerable as a man to a younger boy, that could really teach him a lot. It could be quite impressionable. So I think that's important for them to see because, yeah, they probably see their mothers cry. And that's going to evoke a different emotion, seeing their mother cry. It might trigger them in a different way. But if they're able to see a male role model or that male in their life cry, I think that does a lot as well.
Mhm. Malik says, I used to feel like a failure in their eyes unless I could show up with a bag of gifts or money. So I missed a lot of things in their lives. And to my point, I said earlier, Malik, like a lot of times it's not about the gifts or the money. They just want you to be there. I know that was my son's experience. He's like, he didn't care about the gifts or anything. He just wanted him to be there. So you showing up was enough for them.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And Malik also, Les says, just to clarify again, I was not attacking women. It's not all women that need to do. Oh, trust me, we know, Les.
Oh, yeah.
We know. We know.
Mhm,
Malik says the thing is that situation happened in the Midwest, and unless you have lived there, you have never seen functioning mental illness. Violence is common there. Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. He's talking about the situation where the guy hit his mother twice and the little boy defended his mother and shot and killed the guy. That's what Malik is talking about.
right, right.
Yeah. So yeah,
I
that's
saw
functioning.
yeah, I saw a little bit about that, and they were originally arrested and
Yes.
charged with murder, but the charges have since been dropped,
Yes.
and, the thing that's so wonderful about that because we started this conversation talking about in these internet streets, and, we
Mhm.
played the video of what people are talking about in these internet streets, and so sometimes sharing videos are so freaking important because
Mhm.
had that video had not gone viral and had been shared the way that it had, and news media had to pick that story up, and
Mhm.
that is why, the charges were overturned. So when you guys see things out here, you see these videos out here and it has some value, it's not about just liking it. It's also about sharing it. It needs to be shared and share it with people who have a voice. Share it with people who are podcasting out here. So because they might be able to get it in front of a few other people or get in the ear of a few other people and that thing just, it daisy chains.
Right.
So
Right.
that is also the power of this medium of media. It really
Right.
plays a role. So when we're hearing these things that are negative and this, that, and the other, yeah, it's there. But in this situation, in this particular case, the internet helped free these people because, to be robbed like that, the man punched the lady how many times? Just punched her in her face. And she was
I couldn't watch it all.
she was a licensed carrier, right? So, she called her son and he went in there and but justified,
Yeah.
definitely. All right.
And that last comment, Malik says, but we have to show them how to do it like men. And that's what, to Tanya's point earlier, it has to be, the crying has to be displayed from a male. Because I know me particularly, I never, now a couple of times my son has caught me, but I try my best not to cry in front of my son. If I know I got to cry about something, I go to my room. But occasionally, a couple of times, he caught me slipping. Like, are you okay? So yeah, Malik, you have to make sure that when they see someone crying, it has to be a male, then not, because it's gonna be different when you see the coming from a woman, I think.
I'm not disagreeing with you here, but what
No, I'm saying to that point. I agree with what you said. That's what I'm saying. I agree with what you're saying. The men, they have to see it from a man.
say what I was saying, so if you agree with what I'm getting ready to say now.
Okay.
How about that?
Okay.
Yeah, I dig that. We agree that it should be they should see a man responding in his emotion. That's a good thing. But what I was about to say is it a good thing for your son not to see you cry? You have emotions too. I'm not saying that women can't cry in front of their sons. I'm just saying that there has to be a balance here. They have to know that they too can deal with their emotions. And you deal with yours too. And if crying happens to be that emotion that you are in at the time, I don't understand why you think it's important for you to hide that from him.
Well, for me personally, I don't cry in front of my son. Like, usually it may be something that I'm going through, and I don't want my son to see me in my weak points. So that's why I don't cry in front of him. That's just a personal thing for me.
That is personal, but you know what? That's wrong, because we're showing them that crying is not a weakness. So you are perpetuating that even as a mother. You're showing him or teaching him that it is weak to cry. Why can't you cry? You're strong enough to raise him as a single mother. You're strong enough to do that. So you can't feel the pressure of life or the pressure of whatever that situation is. That's contradicting what we're saying here. Not at all saying that women can't cry in front of their kids, their son. No, you have some emotions, but it is also necessary for some to know that, hey, you can feel this. But if he sees his male figure, male role model deal with emotion, that's just going to be something for him to learn, something for him to connect with.
Well, for me, it's like, and I guess, like I said, it's a personal thing for me. Like, when we go through things as adults, a lot of times, and I can only speak for me, and I know some other parents may experience this. Sometimes we go through stuff and it becomes overwhelming. The reason why I don't like to do it, because I don't want my son to know what mommy's going through something. I try to make it seem as though everything is fine or everything is all right. And I teach him
that. Not. And that's not realistic. Everything is not going to go right in his life.
Yeah.
If you ask the question why you're crying, I feel like, well, there's something that's going on that is just a little personal that I feel like may not be appropriate to share with you, but I want you to know that I'm dealing with my feelings and I feel hurt right now.
Yeah, this is true.
You don't have to go through a long conversation. That's it. And they understand that better.
Yeah. And Malik says he should see both to know the difference. This is his time to console you as a man. Sounds like you trying to be a man.
Thank you, Malik. I'm happy that you said that. Thank you. I appreciate you, brother.
Malik. Woo! Malik also says you have to show them how you deal with emotions and keep functioning. This is the natural way we could teach our kids. Okay. That's good. Kim says emotions are not gender specific. I cannot say that word.
Specific.
Yes.
Or you could say Pacific, like the ocean. We do that sometimes.
Yeah, that's usually how it comes out.
Let
Emotions are
me
not gender specific. Okay.
I want to read it. I want to read it the way that I know people understand it. Emotions are not gender specific.
Right.
They are not.
Oh my goodness. Good afternoon. What's up, Will?
Hey. Good to see you in the building, Cash. All right. That's
Yeah.
true. I just
Yeah.
want to put that back up there because people need to see that.
Yeah.
Emotions are not gender specific. And that's why this conversation was so important, because we've got a lot of young people who are dealing with abandonment, who are dealing with hurt. And as I look at the time and I see that we're nearing the end of this conversation, I really just want to leave people with like a heartfelt call to action. You know, the issues of fathers abandoning their children is one of that affects all of us. And that's regardless of gender, regardless of background. I feel like it's a collective responsibility to create a world where our children, they got to be surrounded by love. They got to be cared about. They got to feel like they're cared about. And so the presence of both mothers and fathers are important. They really
Right.
Is there a closing message that you want to leave with the people before we get out of here?
Well, basically, just like Les said earlier, all fathers are not like that. And I didn't like the fact that she singled out Black men. This happens with any cultural background. And men have to make a choice as to whether or not you need to be there. And then, like I said, kids, they don't care about the monetary. They just want you to show up and be there. And like I said, you don't want your child to get to the point where my son is at to where he's so over it.
Yeah,
But you have to allow them to feel what they need to feel. And
true.
men, even if you don't have the money, just show up.
Show up.
All the time is so important. And it's like my son is he's a rising senior, and next year is going to be very important to him. He's
Yeah.
going to walk across that stage and graduate.
Well,
And
you
it's
know
like,
what? Every stage is important.
yeah,
Every stage is important. We don't
yeah,
just have to identify one particular stage, because
yeah,
I feel like when we do that, I think that could trigger our children. For me,
yeah,
I just want to say to men who may be listening who are in this situation, I just want to urge them to reflect on like what this impact is having on their kids. I want them to be able to embrace their role. I want them to recognize their power and realize that love is what these kids need, guidance is what these kids need, and commitment. Like commit yourself to being present in their lives. You just got to break free from whatever the society expectations may be, because that could limit your involvement, and just redefine what it means to be a nurturing father who chooses and wants to be involved. You really just have to choose to be involved. It is a choice. Now we talked about some of the things that could hinder men from making these choices, and there are many. So we want to keep that in mind, and that range from just lack of emotional readiness. That whole relationship breakdown does play a factor. Finance could play a factor. Substance and mental issues play factors. But choose. If you have some understanding and you're not dealing with some of those things, choose to be present.
right. Ooh, Malik says time flies, and it's gonna hurt if you never got to play catch or push him on a swing or have an ice cream cone together. You'll miss it. I do. I sure do. Wow.
All right, Tori.
Yeah.
I think we were able to guide this conversation. It was tough. We didn't know how we were going to do it, but we made it through this hour.
It was very tough. And to my ladies, make sure you are not speaking negatively about that father. And to the single fathers, make sure you're not speaking negatively about that mother. Teach your child love, kindness, no matter what. I always tell my son, no matter how people treat you, that's on them. That's the cross they have to bear. But it's up to you to how you react to how a person treats you. And just because a person mistreats you doesn't mean you have to mistreat them. Always treat people with kindness. Always walk in love. And if you can't walk in love, just walk away. And that's it.
Well, that was, I have nothing else to add to that. I agree. I really thank you for that, because it is important for women who are part of this conversation to just support and encourage the men in your lives, encourage them in their roles as fathers. And I'm going to leave that at that. All right. Well, Tori, thank you for another good conversation here today. We're going to breathe this thing on out. You're going to breathe with us in the background.
You already know. Peace out, y'all. We'll be back at it next Tuesday. Y'all have a great afternoon.
All right, y'all. You heard it. You heard it. We have got to figure this thing out. It takes all of us. Remember that. It takes all of us. So to all of the men and all of the women, I urge you to take action to mend the issue of fathers abandoning their children. Men, embrace your role as fathers with love, with dedication. Women, support and empower the men in your lives. Let us challenge all of these society norms. Let's be advocates for change. And let's create a world where our children are truly loved unconditionally. It starts with our individual choices, but we must strive for that change that we're looking for. We have to put value in fatherhood, put value in fatherhood, and support our fathers out here. All right. Thank you guys for being engaged in the conversation. None of us are completely right about anything, but we certainly aren't completely wrong. And if we're willing to talk it out, we're willing to have the conversation, I feel like we'll get somewhere. All right. So before we get back into the workday, you know what we got to do. And for this heavy topic and this heavy conversation, I feel like I need this breath work just as much as I needed the breath work that we did when we came in. So we get ready to breathe this thing out. I want y'all to have a great day. Love yourself. Love your kids. All right. Let's do some breath work. Inhale to the count of 4. Hold that a few seconds. Exhale. Hold that a few seconds. Inhale again. Hold a few seconds. Exhale. And hold that a few seconds. Inhale one more time. Hold a few seconds. And exhale. Yeah. Now, don't you feel great? I feel great. I appreciate you guys. And if nobody gave you a smile today, if nobody smiled today, you just close your eyes and give yourself a big smile and see how that feels for you. All right? Y'all be great out here. That's what we do. One love, y'all.